I'm allergic to offices. And so I don't know, there's something that honestly in my body feels constricted when I'm like forced to be somewhere and I have to be there from 9 to 5 or whatever the structure is. Everything in me is just like, no, I'd like to rebel against all of this. So freedom has been my drug of choice. Absolutely. And, that's why I have the name of my business that Set Yourself Free. I actually got a tattoo, which was wild and totally outside the norm of who I thought I was. It says free because that is my core value.
So today I am super excited to welcome my next guest. She has this crazy infectious energy that I think you're going to really love. It's going to go through the audio, and obviously for the folks watching it on YouTube, you'll be able to see it there. So my next guest, her name is Carrie Veatch, and she helps ambitious entrepreneurs bust through limitations so they can build a wildly successful online business. She has a master's in psychology, owner of 2 businesses, and is the host of the podcast Set Yourself Free, which I love that name. So welcome, Carrie. I'm so happy to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me, Kathy. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Well, great. So let me just start digging in right away. So how did you get to the place that you are now in your business? And also, we have to talk about this location independence thing of yours because I absolutely love that.
Yeah. So, gosh, like anyone, right? We all have so many twists and turns and stories of
Right?
how we've gotten here. But the short answer of what I would say is I've always had a deep desire to help people. And, I was the kid that would help everyone with their math homework and all of that growing up. And so I never had these big dreams or what I wanted to do. I think a lot of people knew from an early age, this is what I want to be or who I am. And I just knew I loved helping people and I was great at helping people. So the only thing that made sense for me after college was to go get my master's and become a therapist because it was the deepest way that I knew to help people work through trauma and just a lot of internal stuff. So I did that, but it still wasn't quite the thing that I felt lit up by. So it's been a lot of twists and turns. I found the online coaching space a few years ago, and I was like, that's it. That's what I meant to do. But I had a lot of fears and a lot of things holding me back from putting myself out there, from, people pleasing, what everyone else would think of me. And so I tried to talk myself out of it for a while.
Isn't that kind of like the thing with the entrepreneurs? First off, that there's something more, right? You have this itch, you have this passion. You may not know what it is, right? But you know that there's something more because you will not settle, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And, some of the truth, all of it is that you can't connect the dots looking forward, right? You can only connect them going backwards. And so I'm just not a person that believes in regrets or what ifs or, because if I hadn't turned left, I wouldn't have ended up in that direction. And then if I hadn't gone straight, you just never know. So to me, it's that Gabby Bernstein thing of always just leaning into the next right step. Like that's all you need, the next right step. So yeah, now I'm location independent. I can work from anywhere. I have clients in 6 countries. And I really, really love helping people to access the power within themselves so they can create a life of location freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, whatever that looks like. And knowing that it's going to look different for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. So you're in Mexico right now, is that right?
I am, yes.
So had you started your business at that time when you went to Mexico, or it was just you were around the world and you've been helping people all along?
So I started my business about 2.5 years ago. I was initially, my first big move out of the US was I took a job in South Korea in 2017. And that was the job that got me out of the US, that got me going, yeah, I knew I needed to live somewhere else, at least for a while. But again, I had a lot of fears and things in the way. So I initially launched a gluten-free business because I have celiac disease. And so I did that for a while. And then I started traveling full time. I spent pre-pandemic, I spent about 3.5 months traveling all throughout Asia and getting to see all kinds of cool places. And that's when I finally was like, all right, I see people online doing these crazy big things. Why are they any different than I am? I know I can help people. I know I have a way to help people and I want to. And so, yeah, I launched my business in 2019 and have been helping clients ever since.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, there's, unless you have to go to an office, which a lot of that with a pandemic has gone away, or you're, customer facing in some shape or form. I mean, there's no reason, right, to be location independent. I mean, even a podcast, you can film, or you can either film or you can record anywhere, in a hotel room, in an office. I suppose you could do it outside. I've never tried that yet. There might be a little bit too much noise for that. But yes, absolutely. So I know I just happened to catch your live that you did just a few minutes ago. So let me ask you, what do you feel about sales and how do you help your customer around that? Because that's kind of my sweet spot too. I love helping people. So I just love hearing, different approaches and seeing people be really, really successful like yourself.
Yeah. So the truth is I grew up thinking I don't need money. Money in my world came with a lot of strings and manipulation and things that I was like, nope, not interested. So, we all have money stories, and it's really important that we look at those things and heal those places where someone told us you couldn't be a certain person, or you couldn't charge a certain amount, or it was selfish or greedy or wrong, or the church, if you have a church background and what they have to say sometimes about for me, it was, money was the root of all evil in the church life. And so I go there because that's where a lot of people don't spend enough time, is looking at origin money stories and past wounding. And I think it's so, so important to do that, especially when you're running your own business. Because, and I'll give this as an example. So I got really good at sales and negotiation when I ran a nonprofit. I was an executive director of a nonprofit for several years, and I worked in a male dominated industry. So I just learned, and I'm very masculine in a lot of my energy. So I learned how to negotiate, how to sell anything, and I
You're
loved it.
preaching to the choir. Yes.
But then I went to start my own business and it felt so personal. It wasn't someone else's business, right? It was mine. And it was this service where I was told, sell yourself, own your worth, all this like junk that just started to come up. And I had to do a lot of untangling because there's a lot of mixed messaging out there. And now that I've coached so many, especially women, through this process and helping women to scale their businesses, you're worthy because you are, period. Like it's never, ever attached to a dollar sign or to a sale or a client or any of that. But it gets messy really quickly when it's your own business, right? Like you can be great at sales. And I
Absolutely.
have a lot of clients that had a life in sales before, but then they start their own business and they freeze and they're just like, ah.
That's right. And it's interesting that you said that about looking at the relationship that you have with money. I mean, one of the things that I talk about is, money makes the mission possible, right? Without money, you eventually, unless you want to make it a hobby, you can't continue whatever your passion is, right? And there's
Yes.
nothing wrong with money. Money, can you possibly use money for evil? Absolutely. But I think so many people out there, especially in our space, We're here to serve. We're here to help people. That's the reason that we're here. So chances are the money is going to help your mission. It can be used for a lot of really good things in the world. I mean, even if you create so much abundance for yourself, there's so many people that you can help, especially in this day and age. So yeah, so
Exactly.
mind shift on money, I think it's so important. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's just so important to look at those places where you have mixed feelings about money, where you have wounding around money, where you think, I don't want to be one of those people, whoever those people might be for you. This is a conversation, I was just having with a client this morning of she doesn't want to be that person, whoever that person is, that's too salesy or too whatever. And I always tell my clients, if you are thinking in that way, you're most likely never going to be that person because you're aware.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, anything else that you can tell me your thoughts on sales?
Sales is service. Honestly, that mindset shift has been the biggest change for me. And then also understanding that 99.9% of the population, I would say, pays attention to what they pay for.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you can stop making money wrong, it will just get so much easier for you, right? Like I pay to be in a mastermind. I pay for things because it's going to help keep me accountable to the things that I say I want.
Right.
And if we can work through those unhelpful places, you'll just get there faster because most of the people that are complaining about investing or money or things, I'm like, well, how much energy and time are we spending doing this versus learning how to create the money?
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And somebody yesterday that I was speaking to gave me this quote. I'm probably going to mutilate it. I don't even know who it's from, but it's something about you don't like to be sold to, but you sure like to buy. It has that gist. But to me, what that really means, I mean, because you can't buy unless somebody is selling something to you. So, it's a little bit of a flip. You just have to kind of flip your mindset. Like, anybody that has that problem selling, I'm sure they've bought things exactly like what you said. You've bought masterminds. I have too. We've invested in all sorts of different things to make us better so that we can serve better.
Yes, exactly. And honestly, I mean, we could go on a whole separate rant about all of this, but the truth is like we value education. We have no problem saying, I'm going to spend, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on education. But when it comes to personal growth or growing an online business, there's so many things that come up for people. And I just think we really have to lean into those places and get curious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you this question. So, what makes you a rule breaker? Because I know you're a rule breaker. In the good sense, not in a bad sense. I always, when I say that, sometimes people are like, do you break laws? I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, in so many ways. And it's funny because I was like the absolute rule follower as a child.
You and I
Um,
both straight arrow to the
yes,
core. Yes.
yes.
But I also, what I always considered it was I drew outside the lines years ago. And one of these days, I'm going to find this commercial. But when I was young, there was some commercial. I can't even tell you what it was for. I think it might have been a car commercial, but I'm not sure. There was a girl there, that they were videoing, and she was like in elementary school, and she had red hair, and the teacher was saying, "Draw within the lines." Draw within the lines. And then they show her paper and she's drawn all over the place. And I remember, and then the next frame is she's in, I don't know, in a truck or something like that, and her wild hair, red hair is just flying. But I remember that stuck with me, as a child, because I was like, yep, that's me. That's me. I always draw outside the lines. I follow I follow like the rules that are meant to be followed, but I definitely draw outside the lines. So that's what like I said, I can tell that you're a rule breaker for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I joke all the time, but the main thing for me that I have always said is I'm allergic to offices.
Mm.
And So I don't know. There's something that honestly in my body feels constricted when I'm like forced to be somewhere and I have to be there from 9 to 5 or whatever the structure is. Everything in me is just like, no, I'd like to rebel against all of this. Um, so freedom has been my drug of choice. Absolutely. And, that's why I have the name of my business that Set Yourself Free. I actually got a tattoo, which was wild and totally outside the norm of who I thought I was. But it says free because that is my core value. So to me, it is, and it's not even just about the outer stuff, right? Like I live a life of location independence and I want everyone to have that if that's their desire. But it's really about freeing yourself from the inside of that emotional bondage that so many people live in, and knowing and having those tools to work through that stuff, that loud inner critic, or the places where you're just living in Groundhog Day, quite frankly,
Hmm. Over and
right?
over again. Yes.
Yeah. So to me, it's rebelling against the patriarchy, rebelling against society saying life has to be one way. I grew up very much life was one way. It was, private schools and education, and that was the path. Doctors, lawyers, you name it, that was the way. And anything outside of that was like you were doing something wrong.
Yes, I totally understand that. Actually, today I have a butterfly necklace on that I put on in your honor because to me butterflies, I've loved butterflies, but they symbolize freedom. And I know that that's one of the things that you're all about is freedom, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Especially since you're location independent and you're doing what you love, and servicing your clients. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's
So,
it's the best.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, let me ask you this question. So, what is next for you?
That's a great question. I don't know is the honest answer. I mean, I'm working to always help more and more people. I just recently did my first TV segment on location independence, which was really fun. And really, my goal is to give people tools to access their power. Again, that freedom's going to look different for everyone. But, for me, it's been a million micro shifts and changes to get here, right? It was initially leaving a 6-figure job with no plan B and people saying, "What in the actual world are you doing?"
What
But
was
me
your
trusting
aha moment
myself.
then? So, let me ask you this. What was your
Yeah.
aha moment? Do you know if you
Uh,
have one?
I have a lot of them, but there was one moment where I cried at work. I had never cried. I ended up working there 4.5 years, but was 4 years in or whatever time frame, and I was just like, nope. Not that there's anything wrong with crying. Like I'm a very empathetic and emotional person, but it was the principle of why I was crying and the fact that I have always said, because I've had a lot of jobs. I've lived about 17 lifetimes, I feel like. But I always said before I found my passion of really going, oh, I want to coach people and I know I'm great at this. Before I just always did things that I enjoyed, but I cared so much more about who I worked for, and respect and integrity are huge for me. Like they're just core values. And so there was a moment where I was like, nope, can't do this anymore. Like it's out of integrity and alignment for me. And I knew I had to listen to myself. And that was a big aha moment, even though it was scary to take all the steps to do something completely outside of the box of what was acceptable.
I think you and I have had, I guess, very similar experiences. Yes, I did one of those. I'm not a crier. However, I did cry um, to myself. Basically, I was at work, same type of thing, because I thought the core values and everything else that was attached to where I worked at that time were not aligned with mine. I just thought that there was a loss of integrity. There had been a lot of things happening. And I knew, even though I had been there quite some time, like a pretty long time, I knew I needed to shift because I was not willing to sacrifice my values. And I think that's really, really important. And even for entrepreneurs too, I think, we have a set of values that I think are really, really strong. And it has to do in many times with what your passion is, right? You have this sense of something that is so powerful and it's aligned with your values, and you need to get it out there in the world because there's so many people that need what you have to offer. But yeah, I've certainly been through that. Happily, I'm not, because of what I do, and I'm my own boss and running my own business. I keep everything aligned with my core values 100% of the time. I don't stray from that at all.
It's so important. And, I tell clients this all the time. And I use the analogy, especially my clients. Like I have clients that are past social workers that are very aligned to, my past and things as well. And it was basically this idea that you had to be a martyr in order to care about people, right? Sacrifice yourself, don't make a lot of money, don't be greedy, that kind of thing. But I remember at an executive director training I went to where they really were talking to us about donor relationships and core values and saying you have to make these decisions ahead of time, because when that $100,000 check is being
Mhm.
waved in front of your face and you're not going to hit budget that year, if you haven't pre-decided what your values are and what types of companies you accept money from and don't, you are going to be so tempted to take that money.
Mhm.
And it's true. And it's the same with my clients now, where, especially when you're in a month that's really hard and you haven't made a lot of money, or, whatever's happening in your business, you're going to be so tempted to take on whatever client comes your way because it's money. And so you
Right.
have to figure out what those core values are, what types of clients you want to work with and don't want to work with
Right.
ahead of time.
Right. Absolutely. And money sometimes is power, and it has you have a lot of responsibility, I would say, with that as well too. Whether you're successful or you have responsibility. Do you take this new client that doesn't fit into your company and your company values or what it is that you're selling, right? That's a responsibility. Or let's say you are very, very successful and you make a lot of money. Money is a responsibility to do good, in my personal opinion. It's to do good for yourself, but also to do good for others as well. Like I said, without money, there's no mission.
It's true. It's so true. And I think we just have to continually remember that. And then also come back to the fact that there's abundance. We're taught
Yes.
scarcity. It's so ingrained in all of us,
Hmm.
whatever your origin story is around money. But rewriting those narratives, learning how to do that, like that's some of my favorite work. And it sounds like you too, like with my clients, is teaching them how to rewire their brains and their bodies and learn sales and understand that everything doesn't have to be scary around money, even if that's your past, especially if that's your past.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So, where can people find you if they are interested in working with you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at setyourselffree.llc. I love hanging out there. I also have a free Facebook community called Set Yourself Free Community. And I also have discovery calls. So I'm happy to pop on a 30-minute complimentary discovery call, and we'll talk about the number one way you can shift your thoughts and your actions so you can start making more money.
That sounds great. So we will include that in the show notes for all of you that want to go ahead and get in touch with Carrie. And that wraps up my interview for today. And if you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star review. I will be reading every single review that comes out. So, again, thank you, Carrie. You are a bundle of energy and such a light in the world. And I'm so happy that you were able to join my podcast.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I'm so grateful to be here.